World Series games 1 and 2 are now in the books. And we're going to talk about, go back a little, if you will, to Tuesday's show. And I told you, don't be surprised if Nationals go into Houston and win. Hint, hint, who was right? It's 2-0 after Verlander and Cole. And maybe I'm the only one who thought that would be the Nationals leading. It's true. 2-0. The Nationals lead as we go back to Washington for Game 3 tomorrow. Good morning, everybody. This is Arnie, and welcome to Arnie's Fantasy World of Sports. I'm in for Lenny this morning. Talked to him yesterday afternoon, and he's in such a secluded spot in the Pacific Northwest that he has no internet service. And so this morning, I hope that you consider it a special treat. Maybe not me at 9, but Kevin Hastings, aloha, from Hawaii style. He's coming in at 10 following me, and it's going to be one of those great shows. In fact, maybe a little later in the show, I'm going to open up the phones and maybe, just maybe, I can get Mr. Kevin Hastings to give me a call. Let's take a look at the game last night. We're going to break it down two ways. There's always a box score, and then there's always what went on outside the box score. So let's talk about, first of all, we look at the Nationals, we look at the Astros. I'm going to start with the Astros box score. And I'm only going to talk about not only last night, but the cumulative World Series. Okay, here we go. So Springer, he had a great game, 0 for 5. Yeah, Altuve is 3 for 5. He's hitting 400 in the series. Brantley, 2 for 4, 375. Burt Bregman, 1 for 4, his first hit. He's now hitting 125. He's 1 for 8. Gurriel, 1 for 4. Jordan Alvarez, 1 for 3. Correa, 0 for 4. He's 1 for 9 in the series. Chirinos, 0 for 2, yet to have a hit. Reddick, 0 for 3, yet to have a hit. The Astro batters left 14 runners on base last night. What that says is national pitchers were getting into trouble, but then also they were getting out of it. We'll talk about that more in a few minutes. Pitching-wise, not a good night for Verlander. 6 innings, 7 hits, 4 earned runs. He walked 3. He struck out 1. He gave up a monumental home run blast. Yes, he did. Boy, was it a blast. To Kurt Suzuki in the 7th inning. And that put the Nationals ahead 3-2 and propelled them on to a blowout. An absolute blowout, beating Houston last night. So when you win 12-3, there's not a lot to say there. Good, right? Presley, 2/3 of an inning, totally shellacked. 3 hits, 3 earned runs, 2 walks, no strikeouts. His ERA sits at 40.50 in the World Series. Josh James, an inning, 3 runs, 1 earned. Bregman not only couldn't hit, he couldn't catch a cold either. I mean, it's like Bregman has now decided to go to Space Jam and have someone take his talent away. I mean, Houston's monumentally choking in the World Series. There's no other way to put it. And the pitching is a big part of it. Rondon pitched 1/3 of an inning, gave up a hit. Davinsky called up, pitched an inning, gave up a run. 9 innings of the 9 innings pitched, Astro pitchers gave up 14 hits, 12 runs, walked 6, and gave up 3 home runs last night with Verlander at home. And wasn't I hearing stories how Houston is unbeatable with Verlander and Cole at home? Oh, should have listened to me Tuesday. You could have made a lot of money. Anyway, Washington, Turner goes 1 for 4, hitting 250 now. He's 2 for 8. Eaton, 2 for 4. He's 4 for 8 in the series. Rendon, 1 for 4. His first hit drove in 2. Soto, on his way to being World Series most valuable player. I'm telling you. 1 for 3 last night, 2 runs scored. He's hitting .571 in the 2 games. Howie Kendrick went 2 for 5. Asdrubal Cabrera went 2 for 5 with 3 RBIs. Zimmerman 2 for 5. Suzuki 2 for 5 with that big 7th inning home run. Victor Robles went 0 for 3, but he did walk and score 2 runs. And big part, the error made in that monumental inning when the Nationals just piled it on. You got to put the ball in play. You know, as a little leaguer, you're taught what? Hit it on the ground. Make the defense make a play. Last night, when the Nationals weren't hitting base hits, they were hitting on the ground, and the Astros were making errors. Yes, they were. They were making errors. And so the little league theory, small ball theory, coming through, proving true for the Nationals. Suzuki a homer. Eaton a homer in the 8th off James. Michael Taylor pinched hit for Robles in the 9th inning. He hit a home run. 3 homers last night. And the Nationals combined for 14 hits, 6 walks. I mean, there were Nationals on base all the time. And unlike the Nationals, the Astros, Verlander and company, they couldn't shut it down. Runners got on base, they scored. Strauss, 6 innings, 2 earned runs, 7 Ks. And the bullpen, wow. Fernando Rodney, we'll talk about him a little bit more when I give you some factoids on Game 2. Pitched the 7th, walked 1, no hits. Rainey pitched the 8th, 1 strikeout. Guerrero pitched the 9th, gave up a run, but by then it was over. Strasburg throws 114 pitches, 71 are strikes. Verlander throws his 107, 69 are strikes. Total domination last night by Washington. So let's break it down and let's look at what Houston did last night. It's not, or what Houston didn't do, and what Washington did and what Washington didn't do. The Astros did something Wednesday night that for any other team would have seemed, so what? Juan Soto, as I told you, I think he's campaigning for a World Series most valuable player. What a playoff he's had. He's 20 years old. That's right, 20 years old. What were you doing when you were 20? I bet you weren't being a star in the World Series. Just a bit. Maybe you were. But he's coming up to bat, first base open, runners on second and third, and the Astros intentionally walk him. 173 games between intentional walks, including regular season and playoffs. Houston had not issued a single intentional walk for 173 straight games. But it was the top of the 7th inning. It was Game 2 of the World Series. A guy who had entered the night 1 for 23 in October crushed a go-ahead home run off one of the best pitchers of his generation. 3 consecutive singles feathered about the diamond. A sacrifice bunt. And a team went 10 batters without striking out once. Last night, in that crucial inning, the path to 6 runs, the 12-3 blowout win, a 2-0 series advantage, and now the Nationals running to Washington. It was just a combination of Houston giving and Washington taking. That's the best way I know to put it. It began with a fastball, a 93-mile-per-hour fastball, top of the strike zone, middle of the plate. Verlander had cruised the previous 5 innings after a shaky first, trying to maintain the 2-2 tie. Suzuki, the Nationals catcher, he of the .043 batting average, took the 100th pitch of Verlander's night out into left field bleachers. The score now is 3-2. One night after beating Gary Cole, The other half, of course, of Houston's double-headed monster, the unbeatable monster. The Nationals once again silenced 44,000 at Minute Maid. The Nationals last lost on October 6th. They've won 4 consecutive road playoff games heading into Wednesday. Suzuki's 36 years old, and he crushed Verlander. Talk about barrels. Boy, did he barrel that one. The Astros may have been the best contact hitting team in the majors, but the Nationals aren't far behind. The Nationals swinging strike percentage ranked 3rd. In the 33 pitches in that 7th inning against Verlander, Presley, and James, Washington hitters swung and missed only 3 times. 33 pitches, swung and missed only 3 times. And these 3 strikeout pitchers, Verlander, James, Presley, didn't register a single strikeout in that 7th inning. So anytime you make contact, it's a good thing. Put the ball in play, anything can happen. And I will say, it wasn't just anything can happen, everything happened. I remember Vin Scully saying when Gibson hit the home run in 88, the impossible has happened. Well, I don't know if it was impossible, but it was certainly improbable. The improbable home run, the improbable intentional walk, the improbable bunt. And I talked about it earlier this week. I talked about when the Yankees were playing the Astros, Brett Gardner came up, runners on first and second in a particular game, and he swung away and popped out. If he bunts, you got second and third and 1 out. The bunt is a lost art in baseball. Small ball is a lost art in baseball. Until we rediscover the team formerly known as the Montreal Expos, the Washington Nationals. What a wild, stupid, beautiful, crazy, improbable 7th inning, where Washington scores 6 runs. Robles walk in the inning, chased Verlander. In came Ryan Presley, who took Trey Turner to a full count before walking him. Eaton then lays down the bunt to advance the runners. Washington baseball, but foreign to 2019 baseball. With the juice ball, we swing away. Hey, play baseball. Sacrifice. Position players in 2019 had 342 sacrifices all season. Average it out. That's 1 every 7 games. 1. Davey Martinez calls for the bunt because he wanted to scratch across his insurance run, especially since Strasburg had finished 6 innings strong. And the Nationals bullpen, frankly, probably not too excited about 9 high-leverage outs in the 7th, 8th, and 9th. So Davey Martinez is just trying to scratch a run. Rendon then flies out to shallow center field, setting the stage for A.J. Hinch to call for the intentional walk of Soto that we've already talked about. Now, Presley is a reverse kind of stat guy. He had held left-handed hitters to a 124 average during the regular season. But Hinch felt it was best, apparently, to walk Soto and face Howie Kendrick. So he had bases loaded. Kendrick yanks a second pitch slider from Presley right on the lip of third baseman Alex Bregman's glove. And his glove must have a hole in it because he couldn't catch it. And then when he missed it, he tries to stab at it with his throwing hand, and there's your insurance run. Now, the next at-bat, which was Asdrubal Cabrera, was a huge at-bat too. Remember, Cabrera on the dead dump heap, cut loose, picked up off waivers. Anybody could have had him. And what did I tell you he did last night? Remember, 2 for 5 with 3 RBIs? So he's facing Presley. Presley hangs a slider. Cabrera hits it into center field for a single. It only left the bat at 75 miles an hour. 2 more runs scored. Now it's 6-2. And Hinch, for some, I don't know why reason, maybe he heard my podcast Tuesday and he thought, I'm going to make Arnie look smart. I'm going to leave Presley in the game. So Presley works to Zimmerman. A breaking ball in the dirt moves runners up to second and third. Zimmerman goes to a full count. And then he let's call it taps a curveball down the third base line. Exit velo 62 miles an hour. That's some strength, isn't it? Bregman barehands the roller and throws the ball like I would throw it. I don't know where it went. He doesn't either. But by the time somebody finally corrals it in right field, it's 8-2. Suzuki's up. Remember, Suzuki leads off the inning with the homer. That's the kind of night it was. Let's don't take away from Strasburg. Strasburg pitched 6 strong innings, 2-run ball. He allowed a 2-run homer to Alex Bregman, who really had a bad game in the first inning, but after that he shut down the Astros, striking out 7, worked around several jams. His breaking ball was on point. He threw 114 pitches. He's now 4-0 in this postseason, 2019. He has a 1.94 ERA in this 2019 postseason. And now we go back to Washington. Greinke and Anibal Sanchez, Friday night, 8:07. Washington's going to win. Greinke can't pitch in the playoffs. I'm not one of these podcasters to talk bad about people. I just tell it like I see it. Tell me when Greinke has ever been effective in the playoffs. Maybe he has. Not that I've seen. Sanchez has been great. Washington's going to win. Which, before I go into some factoids, if you remember my Tuesday show, I love referring to that because I was so right. I talked about pitching rotations and setting the rotation for the World Series. And I said, if Washington leads 3-0 or 2-1 at home, Garrett Cole's going to pitch Game 4. He's got to. I mean, he can rest the month of November, December, January, and some of February. He can rest. Okay? He's got to pitch Game 4. Now, I don't know that they'll win Game 4. In fact, I'm not so sure they will. But there's no choice. You can't go. I was reading this morning, and this is crazy. Come on. You can't go a bullpen game when you've got Garrett Cole with 3 days rest, who could go for you, when you're behind in the World Series. I mean, this isn't a series with the Orioles. We're not in May. This is the stinking World Series, A.J. Hinch. And I wouldn't bring in Ryan Presley again. And here's the other thing. Remember I told you Tuesday, Ryan Presley was like a last-minute decision to be on the roster because of an injury? And I don't know if that's part of why he stunk so bad last night or not. But the bottom line is the bottom line. Houston's bullpen isn't that good. Washington, much maligned, is pretty good now. Really. I like Washington's bullpen better than Houston's. I like Houston's starting pitching, but I like Washington's better. I like Washington's bats better. Washington, as I said Tuesday, when I predicted them to win the World Series before the first pitch was ever thrown, I don't waver in that. I'm even stronger in that. The Nats are going to win. Here's some 16 factoids. Are you ready? The Nationals have now won 8 straight games in the postseason. So any of you guys who say all Arnie ever talks about are the Yankees, so wrong. It's Let's Chant for the Nationals Day. Right, here we go. The Nationals have won 8 games in a row in the postseason. That's a record tied with the 2014 Royals, 05 White Sox, and 04 Red Sox. No team has ever won 9 straight in a single postseason, and the Nats, I think, are getting ready to do that in Game 3. That's the first factoid. Number 2, a 2-0 lead. 2-0 advantage teams have gone on to win 71 out of 84 times, 85%. And in the 2-3-2 format, teams winning games 1 and 2 on the road have gone on to win 22 of 25 times, 88%. Each of the last 10 teams to grab a 2-0 lead on the road have won, including 6 sweeps. Won by the Nationals in the NLCS this year. The most recent team to overcome falling behind 2-0 at home, who was it? Who was the most recent team to overcome falling behind 2-0 at home? Most recent. There are 3, and if you want to give me all 3, great, but that's your cue of the day. Factoid 3, we'll come back to it after factoid 3. The Nationals combined to score 17 runs in games 1 and 2 against the great Cole and perfect Verlander. Boy, I'm so glad Verlander lost. Here's why. I don't dislike the guy, but I'm tired of hearing John Smoltz in the playoffs talk about how he's untouchable. Come on. He's a great pitcher, sure. He's pitched great games, sure. But he's not all that John Smoltz made him out to be. The 17 runs scored by the Nationals are the 3rd most by any road team in the first 2 games of a World Series. It's the most that a team has scored on the road in the first 2 games in the Fall Classic, as Tommy Lasorda always said, since the Yankees scored 20 in the first 2 games in Pittsburgh, Chappie, in the 1960 World Series. That's right. Kevin says it's the 99 Yankees. Well, you're close, but close. We're not playing horseshoes this morning, so wrong. We'll try again. How about that? Good morning, Chappie. Good morning, Kevin. Good morning, Corona Cyclones. Good morning, John. It's good to see you guys in the chat room. And in just a moment, we finish up these factoids. Maybe we'll take a call or 2, guys. How about it? Let's do some live radio. I'd love to do that. Keep guessing. I'll give it to you in just a minute, though. In fact, I'll give it to you in just a second. That cue number 1. I got a cue number 2 coming up, all right? To my cue of the day. The most recent team to overcome falling behind 2-0 at home in the World Series, the 1996 New York Yankees. The other 2, the 1985 Royals and the 1986 Mets. So it's been, 23 years since a team has fallen behind 2-0, losing the first 2 at home to win a World Series. And here's my prediction. It ain't happening this year. Factoid number 4. I enjoy this show, can you tell? Chat room, if you're enjoying as much as I am, wow, I'm loving it today. Got a lot of energy, feeling good. Factoid number 4. Washington's 9-run victory in Game 2, the most lopsided win by a road team in a World Series game since the Cardinals beat the Rangers by 9, 16-7, in 2011. In fact, it's only the 4th time in the divisional era, that's since 1969 for you millennials, that a team won a series by at least 9 runs on the road. Who did it? The 82 Brewers and the 96 Braves. Both times in game 1. Wow. Factoid number 5. Strasburg had to battle through 114 pitches, but he completed 6 innings. That raised his career postseason ERA to 1.34. Second best in the live ball era for a pitcher with at least 5 starts. Q, that stands for question. Q number 2. Who does he trail? Who does he trail? He's at 134. So tell me who he trails. I'll come back to that after factoid number 6. Strasburg's 7 strikeouts made him the 9th pitcher to reach 40 strikeouts in a single postseason. The first since Madison Bumgarner, and he did pretty well in 2010, 2012, and 2014. Did he not? The first since Madison Bumgarner had 45 in 2014. Meanwhile, Strauss had just 2 walks to go with those 40 Ks. His 20-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio ranks 2nd among pitchers with at least 4 starts in a single postseason, behind only Cliff Lee's 2010 mark, 47 Ks to 2 walks, 23.5 to 1 ratio. Pretty good company, Strauss. Pretty good. So let's look at my cue number 2. Strasburg's 1.34 ERA, second best with a pitcher for at least 5 starts, trailing only the great, the immortal Sandy Koufax of the Los Angeles Dodgers, whose ERA in postseason with at least 5 starts, of course all of his were World Series games, 0.95. Anytime you're mentioned in a sentence with Sandy Koufax, you gotta like, you're standing, right? And that's where we are. How about factoid 7? Fernando Rodney, remember I mentioned him earlier, who was 42 years and 219 days old on Wednesday, to be exact, relieved Strasburg and pitched a scoreless 7th. That made Fernando Rodney the wild one. I mean, is he not the wildest guy? And you love his hat, right? Has he ever put a hat on straight in his life? I don't think so. Anyway, that made him the oldest pitcher to appear in a World Series game since 45-year-old Jamie Moyer did so in 2008 for the Philadelphia Phillies. The last pitcher that old to make a scoreless appearance was 42-year-old Joe Niekro. Remember the late Joe Niekro? In Game 4 of the 1987 World Series for the Minnesota Twins, which leads me to 2 more factoids about Fernando Rodney, okay? Rodney last pitched in the World Series with the Tigers in 2006 when he was teammates with Verlander. That makes him the 10th player in Major League history to go at least 13 years between World Series appearances. Jim Cott holds the record of 17, and Roger Clemens was the last pitcher before Rodney with a streak that long. The Rocket went 13 years from 86 until 1999. 86, of course, with the Red Sox. In 99, of course, he won with the New York Yankees. And finally, factoid 9 that deals with Fernando Rodney. 3 on Rodney, huh? With his relief appearance in Game 2, Rodney also became the 4th player in Major League history to have appeared in every round of the postseason in both leagues. He joins Carlos Beltran, Chappie's favorite player, Ben Zobrist, and okay, Chappie, I'm kidding a little bit with that one, and John Lester. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you some more factoids. In the meantime, I'm putting my phone number up on the screen as we speak, and if you'd like to call in, hey, we'll talk a little bit. How about that? Because I'd love to hear what you think about the series. And maybe Kevin, Chappie, I don't know who's in the chat room this morning. But if you got a minute, give me a call. We'll talk. And then Kevin's going to follow me up. I'm almost through with the show, Kevin, so it won't be a lot longer. I got a few more factoids. Here we go. Number 10, Alex Bregman homered off Strasburg in the bottom of the first to tie the score at 2. It was Bregman's And that was the highlight of the game for Bregman, if you watch the game. It was Bregman's 8th career postseason homer, all of whom have pitched in the All-Star game in their careers. Pretty good company. The other pitchers, Chris Sale, he's at 2 off Sale. Kershaw, Snell, Trevor Bauer, Andrea's favorite. And by the way, Andrea, I hope that you're doing well and enjoying your trip. Looking forward to seeing you in North Carolina before too long. Let's see. Chappie says, so are we talking dead cap space on Zoe? Maybe so. If you want to talk, hey, we'll talk whatever you want to talk. Sale, Kershaw, Snell, Trevor Bauer, Kenley Jansen, and Corey Kluber are the players that Bregman has homered against. Factoid 11, only 5 to go, guys. With the strikeout of Victor Robles in the second, Verlander became the all-time postseason strikeout leader with 200. I bet Kate Upton is going to reward you with that one, and that should only be good, right? That broke a tie with John Smoltz, who had struck out 199 over 209 innings. And with his 6+ inning start, Verlander now has 202 postseason strikeouts in 182 2/3 innings. The next factoid, number 12, the Nationals have now beaten Cole and Verlander, Cy Young co-front runners, games 1 and 2. Before facing the Nats, these two pitchers have been a combined 45-13 in 2019. They've not been charged with losses in back-to-back games all year until last night. Kudos to the Nationals. I mean, come on. They didn't beat Chop Liver. They didn't beat a bullpen game. They beat Cole and Verlander, by gosh. And the team had only lost back-to-back games. They started twice. That was both on the road. Cole and Verlander, factoid 13, each won at least 20 games and took the loss, of course, in the first 2 games. The first pair of 20-game winning pitchers to lose games 1 and 2 since another pretty good pair, 1965, the year I was born. And it was Don Drysdale and Sandy Koufax. But they're the first to do it at home. Okay? It's also worth noting, I think, that the 65 Dodgers team did go on to win the World Series in 7 games that year. So I guess Houston has a chance, although this podcaster's not giving them much of one, right? Factoid 14. With Kurt Suzuki's homer in Game 2, Verlander has allowed a homer in 4 straight games, tying the second longest single postseason streak. Only Clayton Kershaw has allowed a homer in more consecutive postseason games, and that's 5 straight in 2017. Breaking news, Phillies are expected to name Joe Girardi as their new manager today. Breaking news, hearing it first here on this podcast, Girardi to Philadelphia, exactly what the Phillies need. They need someone to take charge of that team, to take charge of Bryce Harper. Little note, he's not on the team, and for the first time the Nationals are in the World Series. You got to corral the attitude, and Big Joe can do it. I've met Girardi, great person. He expects the best out of his players, and he's demanding that in Philly. So congratulations to Joe Girardi, headed off to the city of brotherly love, cheesesteak heaven. He will do great in Philly, and look for the Phillies to make some noise next year. Factoid number 15. Entering Game 2 of the World Series, as I said earlier, the Astros had not issued a intentional walk all year. And that streak ended with that intentional pass to Soto with 2 on and 2 outs in the 7th inning. And after that, the dam broke. Finally, the 9-run loss was Houston's largest home loss in the franchise's postseason history, surpassing their 7-run shutout loss to the Yankees in Game 1 of the ALCS this year. Chappie's at work. Kevin Hastings is next. It's going to be a great day here on the Fantasy Network, Lenny Melnick Fantasy Sports. No game tonight. Game 3, Friday night in the nation's capital. Sanchez, Greinke. I'm looking for the Nats to go up 3-0 after that one. It's going to be a tough row. I want to thank Corona Cyclones for being in the chat room this morning. Good morning. Phil Chaplin, Royals 29 Boom, otherwise known as Kevin Hastings. Zelmo has joined us in the chat room. Good morning, Zelmo. And Zelmo, what's going on with the Astros? The answer is not very much. Not very much. You guys have a great day. Kevin Hastings is next. This is Arnie on Arnie's Fantasy World of Sports.